It's shortly before 10 a.m. here in mainland Europe, and it's midnight, or close enough too, where Blair is in India, and yet someone has just rung his doorbell. So while he goes and greets his visitor, we're going to take a look at the all-important ESL Pro Tour and the road to Katowice. So as you can see, these are the European teams. We've got 6 who have potentially qualified, but between Fnatic and FaZe Clan, it's pretty tight. FaZe, however, they're playing DreamHack Masters Winter and Fnatic aren't, so it's probably safe to say that those 6 teams will be going straight to Katowice in February. But Fnatic, they could still potentially play in as they're in contention there. However, let's talk about the teams who are actually here at the DreamHack Open, and I want you to turn your attention to Spirit because they're playing at this event. If they win, they'll pick up 100 Pro Tour points, and then they'll be going straight onto DreamHack Masters Winter. So there is an opportunity for them to get to those play-in positions, so keep your eyes on them this weekend. Then we'll take a look at our friends across the pond and around the world. In North America, Fury and Evil Geniuses, they're pretty much shoo-ins for Katowice. Fury, they've already qualified as a direct invite team. Liquid and Evil Geniuses, there's everything to play for here. One of them will end up in the play-in, so potentially we're going to see both of them next year. And you can also check out the points from around the world. I'm sure Blair is absolutely delighted to see Tyloo have got a play-in invite. Me, personally, I'm a Kazakhstan. I want to see Vici make it, but we'll find out soon enough. But let's take a look at the calendar events for the ESL Pro Tour next year. Pop these in your calendar. Take a screen grab because I know you're technically minded and you know how to do it. And there are 8 DreamHack Open events still to be announced. So these are all Tier 1 events you can see on your screen right here. But you know that DreamHack Open is where it's at. It's where we get to be a little bit loosey-goosey. And it's where we get to see talented people like Vu, because me and Blair put out a call to action a couple of months ago, or even just a month ago, and we were like, we need someone to come and join us on the desk. Who would be mad enough to do that? And it turned out Vu. Vu, you're a little bit bonkers.
Enough.
I actually did not see the call to action at all, unfortunately.
You were scouted.
But one of my followers added me and said, Vu would be great for this. And I said, listen, man, I've been coaching for a while, but I'm glad you thought of me. I'll just throw my hat in anyways. And, you know, it worked out. I guess there was no actually decent candidates. It was just me.
One of your followers. I love this. I'm now imagining you in just like a white robe on your Twitch stream greeting people, maybe on a Sunday. All right, let's actually talk about the brackets. Let's talk about the competition here at the DreamHack Open November. Group B first, as they'll be playing on the B stream first. We're going to have, in fact, we don't have a B stream today. My bad. Group B, we're going to have Namiga versus Gambit. That's going to be our second best of 3 of the day. And our 4th best of 3 of the day will be Illumina versus the loser of that match. So whoever wins that second best of 3 of the day, Namiga Gambit, they will be qualified for the playoffs. So let's take a look at Group A, because that's what we're going to be focusing on first. We have got Apeks versus Spirit. This is our Group A winners match. So as the same with Group B, but I'm going to say it anyway, whoever wins this, they're going to go straight through to the playoffs, and then we'll have a decider match between the loser and AGF. So it could be an Apeks versus AGF rematch, and I have a feeling that's what my analysts are expecting. Blair?
Oh yeah, I feel that could be the case. I'm sure Vu's going to disagree with me. He's a big fanboy and all of that. But yeah, I think that's going to be the case for Group A.
Yeah, and we're going to hopefully take a look at the map veto very shortly. I'm actually thinking, let me just scroll down to my predictions, all right, because I worked hard on this. I'm just not prepared to tell you. It is, I think it's going to be Mirage overpass and Inferno. Vu, what are you thinking?
I think Spirit can do whatever they want with this veto. Apeks has a 0% win rate on Nuke and Train. I mean, at some point, you just have such an overwhelming disadvantage in the map veto that it's hard to even guess where Spirit's going to take it. They can take it anywhere they want. They'll take it to the end zone, most likely. Apeks ban Nuke, Vertigo ban from Spirit, as you expect. Pick
Train
map
should come in. Yeah.
Train, most likely. I mean, Apeks showed they're just not good on Inferno. Wouldn't be crazy to see that either, but yeah, Train. And third map, Overpass, maybe?
Yeah, Overpass kind of makes sense. Unless...
Mirage!
Okay. I mean, like you said, Vu, like, they could literally pick or play any map here apart from Vertigo, so... I don't think it's gonna go the way to Mirage. I feel like Dust 2 train could be the end of the train for Apeks here, honestly.
The end of the train line. I really messed up that veto, so I wanted to distract you all with an incredible wink. We are going to see what Twitch chat are thinking very shortly. So if you're in Twitch chat, let us know. Hashtag Spirit if you're thinking Spirit are for the win today, or hashtag Apeks if you think Jacob and the lads have got this one in the bag. But going by that veto, that is a noise of suspicion and doubt. And instead of me making weird noises, we're going to go to Sum Da Young to see him make much more sense than I am this morning. So here's what Sum Da Young had to say about this matchup.
Far, they haven't really met any resistance downstairs. 50 seconds to play with. Sum Da Young still waiting.
So the first game against Flow Scholar, Mirage went pretty easy for us.
Behind it, tons of damage just from utility now coming upon the Swedes, but they have got the upper hand in these trades. Idis Balance goes aggressive with the AWP through the smoke, through the shadows.
And Nuke, we lost a lot of individual duels, and that's why it takes us to overtimes, I think.
This round for his team, I don't think they're going to be expecting anybody to be behind this box. That's one kill. The second player, as you mentioned, slightly more.
But we win anyways, and that feels good for us. Apeks is a kind of good team. They have KM now and Dennis, I think, the team, very experienced guys. They play a really well structured Counter-Strike, I think, because we practice versus them, and they have a pretty decent team, so we need to play from the best from ourselves.
All right, so Blair, I have a feeling you have your faith fully in Spirit for this one.
You have to, right? I mean, they are the biggest favorites in this tournament altogether, alongside Gambit. It's kind of interesting to think about it. We have the three teams who are the highest rank, who are the big favorites: Spirit, Gambit, and to a certain degree Nemiga, coming from the CIS region. Everyone else, you know, it's kind of like this Nordic qualifiers that play. You know, got a Swedish team, a Finnish team, a team from Norway. That's of course Apeks going to be seeing right now. So yeah, the CIS teams are the favorites, and like Vu pointed out as well, they can literally play any map apart from Vertigo. And unfortunately for Apeks, like it's still a new team. They're still trying to find the legs. And on the other hand, for the side of Spirit, they know exactly what they want to do. Everyone's popping off. Everyone's looking good. Mir had a hell of a game yesterday. They were just looking very comfortable. Although that new game was a little suspect, but we did also hear from them that they were trying a few things. I don't think we're going to be seeing that today here against Apeks.
Well, I wonder if we can see the map stats for Dust 2. It's a difficult one because Spirit, obviously, they're going to have a lot more experience as a current roster than Apeks. So in terms of the stats, just make sure you keep an eye on how many times they've played it. Okay, so Spirit actually haven't played it at all much recently, and yet they're probably very, very ready for anything Apeks throws at them, V.
Yeah, Spirit's a pretty great team when it comes to Dust 2. Obviously, the win rate reflects that. They play a kind of unique style. Another name for weakness in some people's opinions. You know, they're pretty hard on Cat. So you could see Apeks maybe pull something out there, catch them off guard if they've done their research. They've been writing their notes, but you're really expecting Spirit to bring that one home.
And are we expecting B to basically be Magic's on his own? How do they handle that bomb site, Blair?
Well, they don't have to try anything too crazy. Although, I feel like they're a team who, like I said, they haven't really been tested, have they? Yesterday, that game against was Flow Scholar, Mirage, they could run away with whatever they wanted. Nuke was a little shaky here and there. But if it comes down to Dust 2, it's a map where I believe it's going to come down to the AWPer, right? The primary AWPer for this team. It's going to be, what's his face? Not some young. I'm having a brain fart. Idis Balance. There we go. Idis Balance really just completely owning the map. I feel like Dust 2 is a map which really favors style of Counter-Strike that Spirit like to play. A little free-flowing, a little bit aggressive, a little bit in the face. And I feel that's what we're going to be seeing. We saw it in Mirage on the CD side where they were just pushing and prodding and poking and making Flow Scholar feel very uncomfortable. That's going to happen here because they know Apeks are a new team. They know they're trying to figure out the roles and how they want to play as a unit. And they're going to make it very, very uncomfortable. And a map like Dust 2, it might just work out for them.
Well, let's hear from Jacob because he had to play yesterday against AGF. So he's got some thoughts on that game and potentially this one too.
The first game versus AGF, I think we could have made it a lot cleaner. It got a little bit messy and had to go to overtime.
JKS playing in complexity and Jacob. Okay. Jacob and Gross making this one expensive. Jacob.
We definitely should have closed that game way earlier, and it should have been a simple 2-1 after the first loss on the first map. I think definitely the two hardest teams that we would have to face to win this tournament would be Spirit in our group and Gambit in the other group.
Next time, Spirit, because this is going very badly wrong. Aggression from Chopper, though, he's had enough. He just takes it.
Spirit is the best team in this tournament, I would say, and we are clearly underdogs. So, we have nothing to lose, and they have, everything to lose, kinda. So, we just have to come in with that mindset and then try to upset them.
We just checked. I got it wrong earlier when I assumed that Magix plays B because he sometimes solo rankers, like on Mirage, for example. But actually, we're expecting SDY to be on Dust 2. So no one tweet me, all right? Instead, let's talk about the likelihood of Apeks causing an upset, as Jacob mentioned they're hoping for today, Blair. I feel like... Yeah, yesterday they were incredibly passive in their Inferno defense, and Spirit potentially going to run rings around them. Chopper's going to be backstabbing the hell out of them. Surely, Blair.
Surely, but at the same time, this guy, he impressed me. But like we look at his team, we look at Jacob, we look at Dennis, right? And the other three players haven't really done for me. Nasty, bear in mind, he is on trial right now for this team, and he had a couple of pretty great maps yesterday. But for me, it was Grusarn, or Grus, as he plays in-game. He was spectacular. He was the highest rated player yesterday in the game they had against AGF. He was looking fantastic. The entries he was winning, some of the shots he was hitting was absolutely nuts. And I think he's got to pop off with this team if they stand a chance. Alongside, of course, Jacob just playing to his usual level.
Vu, are we expecting Apeks to show much in terms of team play on Dust 2 today? Because yesterday on Mirage, it seemed to work for them when they obviously they had their three pack players, and then they had Dennis and they had the Lurker Nasty off making info plays and things. But really, when it came to those duels and those fights, it was kind of all for one and one for all.
Yeah, well, when, what Bless said was about Grusarn, he did so well on the entry against AGF. And, if he can pull off the same thing against Spirit, you're looking for them to maybe do okay. But it's going to be a lot tougher. Spirit, a lot better aim-wise than AGF, I think, on average. It's going to be real tough. And they do have a pretty practiced Dust 2. They've kind of changed it around. They used to play Dust 2 spawn-based from what I saw from Apeks. And now they play it a little bit more standard. So maybe a different look. Maybe Spirit gets a bit confused, but hard to say.
We got to go through predictions super quick. So, Blair.
It's gonna smell like Team Spirit in here very, very quickly. So, yeah.
Vu.
You do have multiple semifinals of majors from Apeks, so they're probably going to get 2-0'd Spirit.
All right, I am saying Spirit. What Twitch chat's saying? I'm jumping here because I know we're running late for the match, so I don't want any admins on me bomb. Twitch chat. What was that result? Okay, come.
All right.
Fine. Okay. Obviously, the CIS fans have not woken up yet. I like it. It's spicy. We're gonna head to a break. When we come back, we are gonna have Mr. Spice and Mr. Lemon Sauce. It is Tom and Vince. You'll decide which one's saucy and which one's hot after this break. Casting Apeks versus Spirit.
Day 2 kicks off right here, right now. It's Spirit and Apeks. It could be the game of the day, to be honest. I think it could be a very interesting one, especially with the map veto. And speaking of which, Tom, Dust 2, you have a few thoughts about this. I know you got a couple of stats up your sleeve.
Yeah, I was looking into Team Spirit because I was thinking, okay, this team Dust 2 statistically looks pretty good. And when it comes to Dust 2 over the last 6 months, now they've lost it a fair few times. But versus European opposition in 6 months, they've lost once. which is kind of mental when you actually look at it. Like Apeks have a real mountain to climb because they only ever seem to lose to their CIS opposition in those sort of domestic matchups, like your Gambits, your Namigas, even a Windstrike in there every once in a while. But versus European opposition in 6 months, they've only lost to OG. So there's going to have to be a trend broken here by Apeks if they're going to take their own map choice.
That's definitely painting the picture fairly bleak for Apeks. Meanwhile, though, Spirit will be starting on the CT side and dealing with a long aggression play. Groose, who had some really impressive moments yesterday, probably the standout player for the most part, alongside Marcelios and Jacob. Hans came in first and lands the first headshot through the smoke. Jacob now stepping up to the plate, but Magic is dealing with him. Swipes him away through the smoke. Sumdai Young connects, but Jacob's there again. And even though the bomb was dropped down, easily retrievable through the smoke, he will push onto the site. And Dennis lays in wait in the wrap position, exterminating Chopper. And our Spirit only have Sumdai Young in a 1-on-3. They know roughly where he is. He was last spotted around CT. And it's looking pretty bleak for him to pull off anything here, Tom. I'd be very surprised if he even gets close.
Yeah, I feel like there'd have to be a pretty big slip-up coming in from Apeks. And you can see them just playing this one very passively. The second he gets out, it's a 3-man crossfire. Very well played from their side of things. And well, they've got themselves the pistol. And I think it's going to be important that they do get off to a good start. Of course, we're looking a lot when it comes to statistics of this Apeks side, but obviously with Jacob, with Nasty, there really aren't many results that we're going to be looking at too much. Like Train, like I painted a bleak picture of Dust 2. Train is even more bleak because they have a 0% win rate. So they need this map. They do. And we've definitely spotted over the, well, I suppose the last day that they've got some work to do when it comes to their map pool. I think there's still not been many officials that they've played. I think as of yesterday, it was something like 12 maps played or something of the sort. So we can expect some teething issues. At the same time, we want them to come out firing, at least give Team Spirit a bit of a run for their money. For Spirit, on the other hand, having a close game versus the Swedes, at least on Nuke, in my eyes at least, wasn't good enough.
I agree, and I'm sure they'll feel very much the same way. I know Frankie mentioned about Chopper rotating around the back of his adversaries and being that constant lurking threat. He's making moves. He's giving the info. You don't want to force Idis balance at this kind of range with the scout. He punishes one, lands more damage. Nasty's down to 3, and everybody else falls around him. He only has Jacob as his tag team partner, and now it's all down to Jacob. 1-on-4 sprays through onto Sumdai Young, but has no control over the bomb, which has been sent reeling off on the side. Magix may burn alive from 100 to 18 HP, and Jacob puts the bullet down range into Mia's head. But Chopper, the man on the flank, has come full circle, a lap around the map, and Spirit instantly bounced back.
This is a problem a lot of teams seem to be struggling with recently, with the meta really moving even further into this sort of long control style where you just want to hold on to that for the majority of the game if you can on the T side. Flanks are becoming more and more possible. And you could see from Chopper, he had no hesitation of going for a mid push at the very early stages of that round. And bear in mind the context of this round, they've only got pistols. I feel like Apeks need to be a little bit more prepared for that because you're going to take big risks. You're going to do things that might not necessarily be expected. And if you saw any of their game yesterday, Chopper was running through into lobby on Nuke on the CT side. Like he was battling versus his opponent. So you've got to be prepared for this man. And he's going for it once again, starting to take the fights versus opposition. They're cleaning up this anti-eco quite nicely. Mir even comes in to join him, and oh, nice shot from Nasty, but he needs 4 more.
Not looking good for him. Magix also decides to push aggressively, catches him while he reloads. That will be the 2-1, and Apeks, after going in for a full-on force, a commitment, have to dip back into a save. Marcelios hasn't really picked up anything for the last couple of rounds, so he will have an open to the next one. But this is a case of just building up that economy now from Spirit and putting that confidence into play. And, you know, I respect Apeks. They're coming into it, the pre-game interview, they did say, look, Spirit's one of the favorites. We are the underdog in this game. Takes a bit of pressure off their own shoulders, perhaps. In terms of this round, though, it's being alleviated with bullets. Not a single casualty with a 4K on Mia. Good start on Spirit, but Apeks now, as I just highlighted, have a buy coming in, and it should include an AWP.
Yeah, this style from Spirit is almost a little bit wild. The battles they're taking in rounds where, sure, there's not a massive amount invested, but it's almost like they're trying to put their stamp on this match very early on. Marcelius was one who definitely had his moments yesterday. Magic's a bit of an awkward spot, but he manages to get into the pit. A little bit of support from Chopper, although that support is quickly diminished. And Dennis is so low. Nice shot from Groose, though. It leaves the 17-year-old left to try and do as much damage as he can. 2 with him. Not a bad trade. The problem, however, now is it's still going to be a 3v2 in favor of Apeks.
A 3v2, but this is maybe where Spirit's aggression will precede them. As Apeks may assume that a rotation is coming into play. It may force them into a desperation push through onto long side, and they're walking into the trap. The spider's web of Mia. And he devours them whole. It's all down to Jacob, but not for much longer. Spirit, looking a little bit out of sorts, still somehow make it work in a 2v3.
The thing that always makes me laugh about Mia and how damn good he is you have to bear in mind that this man was locked into a Gambit contract for so long that he basically disappeared off the face of the earth. Like, he was so good when we saw him in Vegas Squadron. He went into what was the sort of major winning team that ended up being atrocious, let's be honest. Like, it went very far downhill. All right, then. That's something. And, yeah, then he's come back and it's almost like he never left. Just as good as he was before, maybe even better within this roster supporting him, and probably one of my favorite players to watch in all of Counter-Strike.
Really is a very exciting prospect, isn't he? I mean, it just goes to show again the embarrassment of riches that the CIS region has. There's so many players that you dip down into the tier 2, tier 3 of CIS, and these relatively unknown names that just have this insane skill level. Really awkward encounter down on long. Nasty may finally get enough bullets to stick, but now the cavalry's arrived, and down he goes. He was about to get flanked anyway. So Spirit, after losing the pistol, have barely lost any players since that mark, and Mia's 13-3 already. IDIS balance hasn't even really been required, and is consistently getting those AWPs into play. So Apeks, it's down to you to make a believer out of us.
There could be a team right now with Shiro, Axile, and Mir on it. Like, that was a possibility for Gambit, and they got rid of him. Like, I'm just saying, like, that would probably be one of the highest firepower rosters that exists. Like, if you haven't watched Axile and Shiro play, those two are nuts. Like, they are the future of CIS Counter-Strike, and they are truly terrifying. Although there are, like, there's Munazi as well from, I think he's in, not even Navi Junior, it's like Navi Youth or something, who, if he's not, like, a top 10 player in the world, I'll be surprised.
Absolutely. I mean, they've had so much talent for such a long period of time that it's been a huge surprise to me, Tom, that we haven't seen a CIS region team like be the de facto top team in the world in CSGO for the longest time. Like, they may have had some flirtation, some glimmers, but nothing consistent. When you have players like Electronic and Simple out there right now, you're thinking, like, how has that not been a thing? But they've never quite been able to get the full 5-man lineup to work together. Speaking of this round, though, Groose has somehow snuck his way and snaked into the smoke of CT. Spirit realized this is a distinct possibility, and the timing doesn't work out for him. He gets caught, he gets cold, and now Apeks have to spring into action. Time itself is working against them. Bomb's been dropped out of the tunnels, and the rest just falls into place. It's another round to Spirit. That's 6 in a row.
Yeah, what I said earlier about them not really losing to European teams, I think the reason for that is, like, we mentioned the CIS rosters being very sort of aggressive, like high individual aim. Like, and when we look at Spirit, there's not really a weak player on this roster, so you almost have to be, like, almost god tier to just beat them in these aim duels. So beating them on Dust 2 is not an easy task. Picking into it for Apeks, I don't disagree with their choice. Like, I don't really think they have many options of where they can actually go here. So it's going to be a rough one. Hopefully for them, they can start getting at least a few kills on the board, because the money, it's pretty decent at this point. And the thing that terrifies me most is not only have you got the double AWP, but you've also now got an SG, and Magic's is clinical as hell. So this is going to be rough, especially in a round like this. The main goal really is to try and get a bomb plant and then play from there. They've got the Deagles to potentially get them the opener, but they've still got to get past both Chopper and iDisbalance waiting on the cross.
As I kind of highlighted before, it doesn't get any easier after Dust 2. They have Train coming up next. That is, it could be the final destination for them. Chopper on the cross. It's basically pistols. You can't really expect a great deal from Apeks. As you highlighted, a bomb plant really would be the dream at this stage, but it's quickly turning into a nightmare as the oncoming players are being dissolved where they stand. Jacob, the only player to perch up with one. That may force back the CTs a little bit more to allow this bomb plant. Will Jake can get it in time? He does. So they pretty much reached that destination that we were looking for. Unfortunately though, Tom, it's all well and good getting a plant and getting a bit more money in your back pocket. They did have max round loss bonus anyway, but it's 7-1 behind. You've got to start making these buys work. You have to start converting them.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, you kind of have to look at the trade-off, right? So they spent money to try and do some damage, and the bomb plant then makes them the money back. Well, they didn't really do much damage. So, yeah, that's not a good stat, is it? And the fact is, that's not even factoring in iDisbalance, just styling on them. And I think over the last few days, he's been ridiculous. Like we talk about this man being sort of up and down, but it's only really been the ups, even in series that they didn't do particularly well on, like him fighting versus VP. They were incredible. And as I sort of mentioned, like it seems like we almost get this false positive with Team Spirit. Like you go into like CAS RMRs and you go, okay, they should be doing really well here. And they seem to struggle versus teams that have the same caliber of at least individual skill. Then they come up against some European opposition, they just blast them out of the water. So Apeks, the problem is they don't really have the tactical depth that I feel that they cannot beat them on an individual level in this match. And let's be real, you go pound for pound with this roster, it's not even close.
It would take Apeks to have Jacob and Dennis firing on all cylinders. To put it kindly. I completely agree.
Yeah.
You feel like it would have to be Spirit not having a great day. Maybe starting slowly, and that definitely has not been the case. To put a caveat, though, and to play a bit of devil's advocate on that stat that we saw before, that was back in, I believe, May time, so quite a while ago. They actually weren't playing with Nasty or Jacob. They had Truth and Akez instead, so it wasn't the full 5-man roster. Chopper, though, doesn't care. 2 kills go his way. Bomb's also been dropped down. Information attained, but Spirit actually gave up the B site. Sundai Young instantly backed off. Apeks, not realizing this, don't push fully through, and they may have missed their window of opportunity as iDisbalance with the AWP continues to suppress the T's. It's another aggressive peak. Apeks just cannot get positioned. They are constantly out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, Spirit are taking far more map control than you should ever be allowed to on Dust 2. That's the only thing you can say. Like, if you see players like pushing back through tunnels in situations where they basically won the round, you see them like pushing lower tunnels as well. When I think for most rounds we've actually seen somebody watching mid, so I don't really know how they get away with that. And it seemed like nobody was aware of it either. Masterlicious, he's gonna get himself a bomb plant. That's something, at least a chance to try and do some damage here at a 1v4. See if he can at least pull it off. A missed shot really can't be allowed at this point. A second, in fact, coming in. The pressure maybe getting to him a little bit. He's been given opportunities. He finally gets his first kill, but by the time it happens, he is completely surrounded.
He almost saw this wry smile on his face when he got the bomb down. He was like, all right, okay, now the pressure's on. I'm actually in a post plant. We haven't felt this too many times. He did have 2 chances though, Tom, and yesterday those were the kind of shots that he was landing. That could have been an interesting 1v4. That would have effectively put it down to 1 and 2. You just saw Chopper and his aggression up the tunnels, and that very similar aggression we saw on Nuke. Although Sundai Young, from his own perspective, they were feeling their way out of that. They were using it as a bit of a warm-up game to get a little bit of the ring rust away. Dust 2 a map they're far more comfortable on. And hell, you can see it pretty clearly here, Tom, that they're comfortable on this map. Like, they have no issues at all.
Yeah, no, this is a map where I think they can go toe-to-toe with pretty much anybody. Like, you look at the teams that they've taken even over the last month or so, and they've beaten Fnatic, Vitality, FaZe. It's like, they're a very, very good Dust 2 team. So I like the fact that Apeks picked into their strength rather than going for counter picks, because as it was sort of well set up on the desk, there is no real map that they can take this to. Like some of the weaker maps we've seen recently, for example, Nuke is their permaban. So it just doesn't, it's not going to work out for them. This series is a mismatch in map pool and in caliber, because they are very early on in their lifespan, whereas Team Spirit, they've been together a very long time at this point. So again, 8-1. They have a buy in this round. No AWP invested into for Marcelios as well. High disbalance posted on the angle, and I'm hoping there's some sort of utility to force this man off. Luckily for them, he's going to miss a shot, because that looked like a freebie kill.
Good damage though. Young goes through with their secondary AWP. They've got the pieces in the right place. 30 seconds to play with. The first casualty does go the way of Spirit, but Magic's using that smoke to play up close. This is a really disgusting angle. He's about to show his hand. The bomb goes down first. 18 seconds to play with. More utility tossed in. Good flashes being disposed of. And Magic's is still there, still behind the smoke. A full-on gremlin that Apeks have to try and contend with, and they can't get it done. That was one of their best opportunities, Tom. They got the opening pick.
Yeah, that's depressing, isn't it? When your best opportunity, your opponent survives with 4 people. Like, that's one of the bleakest pictures I think we've ever painted. And this is the problem. Like, I don't know how many rounds ago it was. I was like, oh yeah, we've just seen Magix get himself an SG. I think this is going to be dangerous for them. He hasn't lost it. He's died twice. Young is 3-3-3 because he's had almost nothing to do. In fact, he was the B anchor previously. We saw him on fighting towards A that round. I think he just ran out of things to do. And now it's almost like they've just read this perfectly. They've got 2 people waiting on this B site, expecting a change, and they are just mopping them up. 2 kills already. Young finds one. This is so clean from Spirit. Finally, 1 player goes down, but it doesn't even matter. 10-1. And well, the money alone is enough to tell you how this game has been going so far. Like, even after the buy, we're going to see most players around $10,000.
I mean, to put it in context of how absolutely brutal and devastating this map has been, and to kind of also intertwine it with the point that you just raised, Tom, with the economy, collectively, Apeks have 19 frags. Mia has 18 by himself. Like, that pretty much sums it up. It has been that one-sided.
Well, you never know. Maybe they're going to do a flow. They're going to bring it back on their opponent's map choice and then still lose in very close fashion. I'm sad that the Swedish Potato Rainbow is gone, because I think they deserved the map yesterday. They played very well in at least a couple of them. Sure, they got banged in the other 2, but maybe they just need to be slightly better in their vetoes and pick maps they're actually good at rather than their opponents doing it for them. This round's not going any better. It's sort of starting to sound like a broken record, but even the rounds where they did get an opening pick, they've not been close, and they haven't had that many either. Like, these AWPs have been tearing them apart. Young hasn't had too much to do. Mir's been aggressive. Chop has been taking map control. They have no fear. Like, Mir's looking to push through a smoke into mid to try and find a player on Cat. Free kill for Groose at least, but we mentioned how he was a sort of highlight player. I think he got 1 of his kills in the pistol. He's only up to 3.
Exactly, the same mark that Marcelios is currently on. This is Dust 2, and he's had an AWP multiple times. That is simply not good enough if you are Apeks. You have got to get those big pieces working. Young with his secondary AWP has had a really good performance through middle there. You saw him just shutting the round out. And Apeks into another half buy. They're on loss bonus, brimming to the fullest. Remember, or if you weren't here at the start of the game, Apeks did win the pistol. And since then, it's been 11 rounds back-to-back. Now, they've got the opening pick, but we've been here before. Apeks were unable to capitalize on it last time around. And to be fair to them, in this round, it's still unlikely. They've got low HP players. They only have 1 assault rifle. Dink onto Mia, but it was a pistol, so he can shake it off and back away to join the rest of his teammates again.
Yeah, the hard thing at this point is to try and work out where to go. because Team Spirit being so aggressive, they find out where the push is coming before they even get close to executing on it. Like the best thing that really Apeks have been able to do is just try and run defaults to hold off these aggressive pushes that have been coming in. But most of the time they either A, lose the duel, or B, they miss one and then somebody gets in behind them and catches them anyway. Now, thankfully, they put down Chopper, who I think has been the worst case of this. But at the same time, you then have the sort of calm within this team. Like Magic has been an absolute rock when they've needed it. Some Young hasn't had much to do, but he's now got himself up to 10 frags as well. Like he was 3-3-3 as said. I think he's now 10-4. So it doesn't matter who they run into at this point. It just ends in death.
Yeah, not enough flashes preceding the pushes. Maybe a case of being a little bit disjointed. Good flash this time around, though, but Magix has his all-providers balance covered. And now Dennis has to try and play this a bit unorthodox, using a different angle of approach, and Magix is having none of it. Puts him out of his misery, 12-1. We've seen a few very one-sided maps here, Tom. We've casted 2 16-2s. It's not out of realms of possibility that we're going to have a very similar result come the end of this first map.
I wonder if it would be possible for Elliot to find out how many rounds in a row Magix has survived. Because that's the same SG, by the way. That's the same one he picked up like very, very early on in this game. So he's just not been dying. Now they've managed to catch out Iris Balance, but he's still holding. The He wins the duel versus Dennis, and now Chopper catches a sneaky push from, no, well, not so sneaky push from Nasty. An angle over the edge of the smoke. Quite a common one, but Chopper's going to fall for it. However, they're still the second man. They failed to finish off earlier. Bear in mind as well that even though they've cleared the majority of the site, there's still going to be a man in the pit that they need to get rid of. An after plant position, though, and again, I'll say it, this is one of the best opportunities they've had for a round.
And that's also considering the fact it's a 2v3. Barcelios, though, connects the headshot onto Magix. That repels the long aggression. But Mia steps up alongside Young. And although Apeks get the plant and they take 3 players with them, it will not be good enough to yield the round.
Are they going to pick up the SG?
I hope they do. Yeah.
They do. I suppose they got so much money, it doesn't matter. And that, yeah, I guess I jinxed it. I think that's the first time he's died in a long, long time. That is ridiculous, though. Like, the fact that they don't finish off this balance comes back to bite them, because he gets 2 kills, not only as they try and cross him, but when they get back into the site as well. 13-1. We've not seen any of the stars align this time for Apeks, and Team Spirit are showing today, at least, why they are the standout favorite in this tournament.
Why Apeks themselves highlighted them as the favorite, not just for this match, but the entire tournament. And some people may feel like they're a bit of a dark horse to maybe even take the Masters. This is something that Spirit were discussing. Of course, DreamHack Masters takes place right after DreamHack Open November. So definitely write that down in the calendars. Iris Balance not called upon as Mia helps him out. Bruce maybe can punish, and indeed he does. And suddenly a flurry of frags. Apeks get 3 in a row, put it down into a 2v4. They may start and end the round in winning ways with a middle portion that is very one-sided indeed, and it's looking good as Young gets caught with his pants down, and it leaves it on Chopper in a 1-on-4.
Well, this is impossible. Like, if they somehow lose this round, I would straight up just DC from the server and just default this one over, because you've got a B site after plant, so many players on different portions of the map. The only thing I will say is it's possible he gets an individual duel, but there is Dennis to close it. As you said, they'll start and finish with a win, but nothing in between. Spirit dominating. One more half to come.
Spending all my money like I stole it from the Lord. If we shake it,
Apeks suffered a devastating half of Counter-Strike, but at least they broke the combo of 13 rounds straight on Spirit. They ended with a victory. And Tom, it's pretty simple. They've got to start putting those bullets to faces. They've got to get consistency. If they concede this second pistol, I'm pretty comfortable saying this map's probably over.
Yeah, I don't think that's the boldest prediction in the world. They seem to have a good read on the direction, at least, that Spirit were going in. I quite like their pistol setup, actually. Sure, they've abandoned long, but in a retake scenario, the A site's definitely the easier of the two. So they've gambled to try and deny short control. Nasty, this timing, though. Oh, he's going to get one at least, and the second as well. Really nice play, a huge risk taken, but the reward is massive. Almost needs to find the kill onto iDisbalance, though. Otherwise, he's just evened things up once again. Marcelius behind him will keep things going, and now Magic's left in a 1v3.
Does have the element of surprise, but now he's been spotted. And a Glock at this range, not going to be able to get that insta-one tap, but now he's closing the gap. He's done a lot of damage to Dennis. He'll think twice about re-peeking. That smoke is brutal for Magic. He tries to push through there, and he gets punished. 2 of the 3 rounds that Apeks have are off the back of pistol rounds. But will history repeat itself, and they get submerged instantly? They have got to put this to use now. They were unable to do so. Great work from Nasty, as he saw from the replay, but they couldn't get it done in the first half. Spirit haven't really invested that much. iDisbalance has a scout, and they got a couple P250s. That's basically it. So you've got to hope that Apeks can at least string a few rounds together now.
Not Chopper, just going to run straight down mid. Actually gets quite a bit further than I would have expected, but nonetheless, it is still just going to be the hold. Mir hiding in the corner, takes down Groose. They're still making this one costly. iDisbalance obviously going to invest into a scout in the next round as well, so him investing here is just a bit of a bonus for them. See if he can do some extra damage, and they've got to be careful, but shots connected with the FAMAS. Leaves Magic's again, just trying to make things a bit more costly. A rifle removed here would be huge, but Marcelios has his number.
As his number, punches it in and ticket to a 4th round on Apeks. But even though iDisbalance did go for a bit of investment, the rest of the team goes for a buy, and iDisbalance goes for another scout. I actually like this play on Dust 2. Makes a lot of sense to me, knowing especially that it's unlikely that Apeks will have the wherewithal to go for an upgraded AWP at this stage. It's a very heavy investment, so they'll be holding on to some of these FAMASs and the M4s. Pretty standard positions, albeit 3 players on long early on just to establish a bit of control before they trade off Dennis back onto the site. Middle control, though, by and large available, barring Marcelios, and I think they realize it, so they will be flashing in for a bit of more information. Aggression from Gross, who goes into the smoke, and Magic has a good idea, just sprays him down. That's going to be so tilting at your Groose. You desperately need to start getting rounds, and you just gift your life away like that.
You can't fool Boris. That's what I'm starting to learn. He said earlier that his favorite gun is the dual Berettas because 2 is better than 1, and he's become even more of a favorite of mine for that comment. Nonetheless, Chopper is going to be pushed, but 2 players waiting. iDisbalance will convert and retrieve an AK for his troubles as well, and the remaining 2 players are stuck towards CT. I hate to say it, but I think the save's the right call here. We're looking at the amount of money they have, but they're going for it. An AK from Marcelios, but it does not last long. And now you look at the money. Think of the difference, Vince, that 2 guns could have made in this situation.
There could have been a night and day, couldn't it, really, kind of purchase. Instead, you got an MP9, a couple Deagles. I mean, surely you give Jacob one of these upgraded weapons here. I understand the guy can Deagle, but it feels like you are tying a hand behind your own back. Almost the arbiter of your own demise in this sense. Flashes are good, though, on the counter. Keep Spirit at bay, but no one's up close from Apeks. They've given this up, so those flashes don't really do a great deal. It puts Apeks into a catwalk-centered defense with 2 players now through CT. Also aggression. Nasty's bypassed Mia's positioning. Now, this will be a lot of information that's gathered across to the CTs, and I just wonder if Mia, this is a false narrative. If he's giving off this information, to Spirit to give them the go-ahead, the green light, saying, okay, guys, look, I've seen nothing. Meanwhile, Apeks know exactly what's coming up. Now, can they make this inferior weaponry work? They're going to try and bypass all of this aggression and come back around. May have no idea to Nasty's position. They know that middle was unchecked for so long, so they will do their due diligence and put Nasty down, who only gets the one frag, but does tons of damage to some Die Young. And now it's the CTs that have no idea, but Mia! He played too patiently. He gave away that spot. What a chaotic round this has been.
Good on Dennis for checking that. I think it was almost just like he looked in that direction by coincidence, but that is the difference maker in this round. I felt for a second Mir was about to put the pain on them once again. 23 kills to his name, 25 seemingly on the cards. They're still going to try and pressure, but here is Marcelios. One of the rifles that's still remaining. Going to be forced out of position thanks to the Molotov, and Balance, not renowned for his rifling, but instant headshot on the move in. Groose coming from behind, however, makes this a nigh on impossible scenario. A bomb plant will at least give them some cash, but now Balance has the clutch 1v3, and Dennis doesn't give him the time of day. 5 rounds for Apeks, the start of something maybe, but the bomb plant at least gives some money for Spirit going into the next round.
Oh, Mia has got to be fuming there, though, Tom, because he had the round in the palm of his hand. He let the first player go past him, which I believe was Nasty, and then Dennis just checks it. He checks the scaffolding. Oh, my goodness. A huge round from Dennis. But Spirit will be thinking, guys, we could have tied this map up. Like, this could have been over. We could already be heading to that second map in a few moments. They still have plenty of weaponry, though, Tom. As you said, that bomb plant affords them the luxury of getting another AWP out and some assault rifles. So definitely don't write them off around 20. But Apeks are doing their absolute best of hanging on by any way they possibly can.
I'm hoping around like that, like a little bit of luck mixed in with some good aggression coming out from Nasty, who was obviously the man waiting around long. That enough could be at least gaining you some confidence. Even if they get back to, say, 8 or 9 here, I think it at least gives them something going into the next map. You never want to be just completely blown out of the server. Especially, I think, maybe in other maps where maybe you can just try and reset quicker, but they won't have even warmed up into this one if they just got battered as they were in the first half. At least they can start to feel, okay, slow start to the day, earlier in the morning. We can do it for the next one. Jacob, well positioned, but it's only a deagle in a trade with the AWP, so it's not really a massive loss. I don't think they've managed to retrieve much of the weaponry, so it's not really going to benefit them too much here. Instead, they're going to try and double back towards short. All 4 players lined up. Bomb still on the deck, which will have to be retrieved, but no real worries about that. Now the pressure once again comes onto Marcelios.
Has the right idea, and this flash up and over could cause mayhem on the approach. 20 seconds, doesn't peek behind it instantly. Another flashbang comes out, but it's Balance that has his hand raised high in the air. The victor of that trade. And that trade victory may very well correlate into a 15-5, a 10-map winning lead, potentially. But this isn't over just yet. Apeks still have 3 players, still have a kit, still have a HE, and some AKs at their disposal. Smoke now clearing, but instantly 2 kills back-to-back, make it 3, and make it 10 map points. Spirit on Apeks choice, about to walk away with this.
Yeah, utterly dominant from them. Back to winning ways, and again, we have to highlight some of the utility they use. I always like this sort of deeper smoke that gives you a bit of a shroud over the top. It also means if anybody rotates through CT, it's very difficult to sort of catch that headshot angle that everybody likes to play. Just a small little tidbit that's being thrown in by Spirit. And again, they're a well-practiced team at this point. Nasty, nice shot onto 1, but as the only B defender and Jacob having to rotate in through the window, it's going to be a tough hold, and Balance, that man you hate to play in matchmaking, the one who sits at top mid for the entire round. Bruce, decent position. A second headshot as well off the deagle. He's made this one interesting at least. And in fact, the T's are going to have to fall back out of the tunnels. They've reclaimed at least some map control. That doesn't make this any easier. The 2 players left could definitely pull this back.
Oh, they could, and Apeks know it. And honestly, even if Spirit were to concede, they also know that Apeks economy is in absolute dismay. So if they can take another weapon or 2 away, even if they concede this, it could just be good enough to still outright win, because it's not as if Apeks are going to have a ton of weaponry in the next round. You can see that their finance is 3 players on $0. So Spirit's still very much in this. But there's so many banana peels that Apeks have to try and bypass and not slip and slide. And they've done just that. They've walked into Idis balance. Jacob goes looking, finds the information, but it's at the cost of his life. And you can see how split up Apeks are. Marcelios is still in the tunnels, can't really supply any kind of cover for Gruus. And he knows the importance of his life. A player that has so much impact for Apeks. Will go for the peak. Neil, he gets the timing, but don't overextend. Idis Balance is watching, peering from the car with the AWP. They can't deny the bomb plant. 12 seconds to go. There's a molly in there, but Marcelios pushes through that Molotov, takes down Chopper post-plant, loses so much HP. Idis Balance misses that shot. That looked dead on to me. I'm not sure what just happened, but gets it done anyway. It doesn't matter. He was just saving us for the sick flick top.
Yeah, I love it. Just the way that he hits the headshot towards the end, an absolute display of dominance coming out of the side of Team Spirit. And I have to say, although it's a bit of a depressing defeat for the side of Apeks, it's the #1 team in this tournament that we want to see. So great stuff from them, Vince, but you know, hopefully they can turn things around when it comes to Train.
Absolutely, Tom. You're hoping that we're going to see a much better performance. I think it could get a little bit rougher, though, before it gets better. But we'll be heading to a break. And when you rejoin us, we will actually be back live. We're not going to have the analyst segment. It'll be straight back to us, map 2.
Screw those guys.